So, hello. Let's just hope the microphone is working. Hello, it's me. I'm back with a vlog this time. So, I am, as you can see, in Ljubljana at the moment. Tomorrow, I will be going to Vienna. So, I wanted to start this vlog while I'm still here to kind of talk about the books that I will bring with me, or just briefly mention them. So, you can kind of get a little taste of what I intend to read for the next 2 weeks, although this might change. Some of the books that I have with me, one of the books that I have with me is a book that I read last year, and I'm using some of the material, the book as a source for some conferences where I'm presenting two papers. And the book in question is The Question of Palestine by Edward Said. So I wrote an article on the subject of Zionism, and I'm presenting in two conferences. One is in Istanbul in April, and right after that conference, when I come back, I have a second conference here in Ljubljana, and I will probably need this as a source, as I won't be here for the whole of month of February and March. I will need it to prepare my presentation. And second book that I'm taking with me that is also related to those two conferences is Muhammad El-Kurd's Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal. I will probably need something from here, not necessarily everything, but I have had this book ever since it came out, and I postponed reading it, but now I need it for the conferences, and also this is a good push for me to kind of pick it up and read it, because I've been avoiding it as it is a quite challenging read. Yesterday we had a small action in FDV, the faculty where I work, where we were reading certain books, and one of the colleagues and friends was reading several pages from this book. On the lighter note, I will be reading some novels. Currently, I still have this one, The Luminaries. I haven't really made any progress with this one, and I would like to, so I'm hoping that that's gonna happen in Vienna, because I do tend to take some time for myself, not just work, although I have a lot of work. So maybe one day work, one day take off. Another novel that I started but didn't get quite far, I think I read how many? 10 pages. The Anthropologist by Ayşegül Savaş. And then I have a collection of essays that I also mentioned in the previous video, and that is Portrait of an Island on Fire by Ariel Saramandi. I'm getting there. I'm 220 pages in, and I have maybe about a little over 100 pages. It's a good book, but it's very heavy as it deals with history of Mauritius and also contemporary political situation there. And she is unapologetic about the reality that many people in Mauritius live, and it's very difficult to read about that, especially because you are an outsider, you have a certain distance for me, and you feel totally helpless. You can't do anything about it. You're just reading about all of these horrible, horrible things that are happening on this island. And you just feel, well, at least I feel very overwhelmed at the time. I think it has to do also with the current state of affairs in the rest of the world. And then finally, I hope to finish this one, which is Decolonizing Methodologies. I'm also going to be using this as a source for the second conference that I'm gonna attend in Ljubljana. It's gonna be also presenting the paper on Zionism from a little bit of a different perspective. It's gonna be a critique of academia, but at the same time I'm using this book, although she writes from the indigenous perspective, I'm using this book as an inspiration for my work and how I can borrow certain things from her reflections and whether it's possible to adjust them to the Balkans. We here in the Balkans haven't been colonized, but we are experiencing, we are seen, we are othered, we are seen as othered. We are othered by Europe, by the West, and we are kind of in this in between the orientalized Middle East and the civilized Western Europe. So I actually teach about this course in class to students. I had a class last semester about this, about Balkanization and how this idea of Balkans developed in the imaginary of the West. So I'm using that, and I have written a proposal for a conference that's supposed to happen in Macedonia in October, I think. So I'm using her work as an inspiration to kind of reflect on my own research and to kind of try and see how I can, as a researcher, not be complicit in this extractivist model that a lot of academics still are engaged in. And possibly, I'm not sure whether I will bring this because this is already too many books and I have it in a PDF file. Maybe Gore Capitalism by Sayak Valencia. I have read parts of this one. I haven't read the whole book, but there is a chapter segment in the book that I would probably use for my PhD. It's called The New Mafia, and it analyzes the historical links between mafia and capitalism. That's the first chapter in the segment. So might bring this with me because it's also a pocket book. This is quite convenient, but knowing me, I will probably buy some books there in the bookstores that I visited last year. A friend of mine already forwarded some events that are taking place while I'm there, and one of them is in this bookstore called Bibliobox, which is a Palestinian orientated bookstore. I would say maybe Middle East orientated bookstore. They have a lot of authors who are from Middle East, and I think specific focus is on Palestine. I don't hold my word on it, but they had other authors as well. Black revolutionary authors. And I think a friend of mine got a very interesting book about masculinity, men and masculinity, when we were there last year. So that's it for the intro. It's already 9 minutes. I think this video is probably going to be about 1 hour. So buckle up, and I hope you enjoy it. See you soon. Bye. Vienna. I have been here for about 5 or 6 days now. I did not record myself updating you on reading or anything else simply because I was being mostly lazy. I arrived on Thursday very late in the afternoon, around like 5 p.m. And I was just after that being mostly in the apartment and went to one museum, Albertina, on Sunday. On Saturday, I had a friend visit, made lunch, and we hopped from a coffee place to a restaurant and then to a bar. And it was really nice. On Friday, I was actually bookshop hopping. So that was also very nice, but that took maybe several hours. So for the second half of the afternoon of the day, I was mostly at home with the cats. And that was very nice as well because I got to spend a lot of time with them and get to know them a little bit, their personalities and their needs and ways of expressing when they want something, in particular when they want food. That's quite interesting. So it's two cats, one is a boy, one is a girl. And they're quite chill. They're really sweet cats. Like they're not fussy, they don't make any issues, like they're not really naughty in any way that they're trying like to knock things down or like do something. Now I have them like in a living room simply because I'm recording, but yeah, they're really sweet. It's interesting because Nils, the male cat, he has a ritual where 5 hours before the evening feeding he thinks he should be reminding you for 5 hours that you should feed him. So he's like climbing on top of you, he's asking for pets, he's like all over you, which suits me fine. I don't have an issue with that. The only issue I have is when he's like putting his face so close to mine that all the hair is getting stuck on my face. But it's quite sweet. They're very cute. He has these big green eyes, and when he looks at you, it looks like a lemur is looking at you. But reading wise, I didn't read much over the weekend. I think I read like maybe 2 pages of the mystery novel that I'm gonna do a separate vlog on. But I did go to the library yesterday, the National Library in Vienna. I've been there 10 years ago when I was studying for the final exams that I took for my BA course. And I loved it. So I went there yesterday. And the only thing is you have to pay like €4 day ticket or 35 euros yearly ticket. So now I'm kind of like contemplating. A friend of mine recommended the study rooms in Vienna's university halls. She said there's like these like lounge areas where you can spend like really chillaxed time, like people are talking, but obviously it's like more cozy environment. So I might go there, but I might be going there for the work where I don't need internet because I don't think I can access Wi-Fi there unless I am studying at university. So that's a little bit of a downside. So I have to kind of calculate what work I need to do and where I will go, whether I will stay in the apartment or go somewhere else and do the work which requires internet connection. And then the work that does not require it, I can just go to the university study halls, public halls that you don't have to pay the entrance for. I'm sorry, I am smashing my hand against the table, so that's why the image is shaking. I will try to control myself. I do really like to wave my hands when I'm talking, obviously. So I will update you on the reading. The first one is The Colonizing Methodologies, Research, and Indigenous Peoples by Linda Tuhiwai Smith. This book is actually a book that my mentor has for one of his courses, BA courses. And I actually bought this in Berlin last September when I was there. And I wanted to read it simply because I was curious, but also I wanted to see if I could extract something that could be applied to the Balkans. Of course, she's speaking about a particular context, about decolonizing methodologies, but a lot of these things can be applied also to the Balkans. One thing I have to say, we were not colonized. We did not experience colonization. This is one of the discourses that is now present among some academics and researchers from the region, where they're trying to desperately appropriate this colonization and decolonization contexts from the global south, like Africa, Latin America, Australia, New Zealand, Asia. And it just simply does not apply to the Balkans. First reason is that the Ottoman Empire was not capitalist. It was not an empire that was extractivist capitalist, like, for example, French colonial empire or British or Dutch. It did not have this civilizing mission, quote unquote civilizing mission, like the aforementioned empires had. And simply, the Ottoman Empire itself was embedded within the capitalist system of exchange, like the world exchange system, but it was not capitalist itself. Also, when we talk about these concepts, we need to understand that which part of history we're speaking about, because the existence of Ottoman Empire is very long. And of course, the way it looked in 15th and 16th century is not the way it looked in the 19th century. And we can say that, of course, 19th century Ottoman Empire is becoming more and more capitalist in the sense, the way we understand capitalism with the Industrial Revolution. But it didn't have these systems that other empires had. So it's very important to make that distinction. And, I ask myself also a question: why is there a need among some researchers from the region to appropriate this coloniality and decoloniality? And I think it's just part of this positioning on the scale of victimhood. And it's part of nationalism nationalistic trope, and it's also part of Islamophobia. We need to acknowledge that. If you know anything about the Ottoman Empire, you will know that, probably you will know, but for those who don't know, is that Ottoman Empire did not have these discriminatory laws that, for example, British Empire and French Empire had regarding religious affiliation and ethnicities. It did not. You had to pay taxes if you were not Muslim, and you, in that sense, of course, you did not have the same standing and position as if you were practicing Islam. But the religion, there was no discrimination. And maybe some of you know, maybe you don't know, but during the Spanish Inquisition, when a lot of Jewish population was expelled from Spain, they actually sought refuge in the Ottoman Empire. And part of the population inhabited Sarajevo, which is today in Bosnia and Herzegovina, and they still are keeping alive this dialect, Spanish dialect that they spoke in the 16th century Spain. So that's something very important to address. When the Jews were escaping persecution from the rest of the Europe, they sought refuge in the Ottoman Empire. I mean, we should also address the fact that the Ottomans did not do this specifically out of the goodness of their heart. They had their own interests, of course, because the Jewish family that were escaping, they were also merchant families, and this was also in the interest of the Ottoman Empire to host them, as they were one of the empires that was trading. It was on the trade route between East and West. So when I was reading this, I was trying to see which parts could fit the context of the Balkans, which could not. And there was a lot of criticism that she has in this book that I can use as a researcher, as a self-critique for my own research. And I think this could be also used by anyone who is doing any research work in social sciences. Doesn't matter whether you are researching the indigenous peoples or not. It's very good for you to kind of keep your eye on the ethics of your research. You need to be constantly questioning yourself. I think that is necessary for any good researcher. So in that sense, I mean, even if you are not a researcher, if you are curious about these topics, the book is written in a very accessible language, and I think you will find it useful. Next book I will talk about, I started reading it yesterday, is Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal by Muhammad al-Kurd. I had actually pre-ordered this, but it's been sitting on my shelf for some time, simply because I have been avoiding to read it. Not because I think that what Muhammad has written in here is bad, but because I know that it's going to be very painful to read it. And I was thinking yesterday when I was reading it in the library, if it is so painful for me to read it, I cannot imagine how painful it was for him to write it. Only he knows that. And one aspect that I would like to mention about the book is that there are a lot of things that he writes in Arabic, and that he just leaves them like that without actually translating them to English. And he gives a quote of his grandma in one instance, and he writes it in Arabic, and he says in the footnote, if you want to know what this means, ask your Arabic speaking friends. So I think it's really interesting approach that he is making it clear that there are certain things that those who do not come from Middle East and don't speak Arabic should be gated, walled away from the information that he's sharing. And if you are really curious to understand what he is saying or what he has written in the language you don't speak, you will make an effort to find out, to look up the translation somewhere or ask someone who speaks Arabic if they could help you with it. It also puts you in this very interesting position as a reader, because you do not hold the power over the book that he has written. He has power over you by withholding certain information. And I think in that sense, he's communicating very clearly what his intention was with the book. I have to say, even as an ally to the Palestinian struggle and resistance to Israeli settler occupation, I still believe that he has a lot of valid and valuable critique for us in how we extend our solidarity, and how this solidarity can often prove to be. I'm not sure if you can hear that. I think the cats are having fun in the room. They're doing zoomies. I think in that sense that he's also calling the allies to kind of have this critical approach to their allyship and expression of solidarity, because even that can be sometimes very detrimental for the Palestinian cause, and especially feed into this narrative that the Israelis have of Palestinians. I will probably address this a little bit more when I finish it. I will pull out some quotes and talk about the book further. I think it's a very, very relevant read. It's a must for anyone who wants to understand how everything that's going on in Palestine looks from the perspective of a Palestinian. So I will see you very soon. I will attach in between like videos that I've took from bookstores, museums, with some explanations. So yeah, I will see you in the next update. Bye. So it's time to wrap this vlog. I haven't had that many talking updates for you. I haven't even figured out how I am going to be editing this vlog. Can you I hope the daylight, I don't know the quality of the video that's gonna be, it looks a little bit grained, even though there's like a lot of daylight coming in. It's a sunny day here. Today's actually 24th of February. So I still have 2 more days here. On Thursday afternoon, I'm going back to Ljubljana. And I'm excited and sad at the same time. I really had a lot of fun here with the cats. They are characters, really. Yesterday was like such a weird day. They were so naughty all day. They were like up to mischief. Billy was yelling at me in the evening for not cuddling with her and for being in the library the whole day. Then they were like, getting into places, like getting into cupboards they're not supposed to get into. They were trying to
like open cupboards with treats and things like that. Like they were just like really naughty yesterday. And yesterday when I came back, I was like talking to them like for hours. I was like scolding them, "You are so naughty today." And they were just like looking at me like, "What is she talking about? This is our regular Monday." But I had a lot of fun with them. I'm gonna miss them a lot. I mean, they are characters for sure. Like they're each cat is very different. Like Nils is more like food orientated, and 5 hours before dinner time, he would just like come and stare at you like intently, like this. I will post a photo of that. Like he would be like this staring at you, and then you would be like, "What?" And then he walks away, and then he comes back again and does the same thing. And he does it for 5 hours like that. He doesn't get tired. Like, and then he climbs on you and he's purring aggressively. It's really funny. Billy, on the other hand, she likes to cuddle, but she doesn't do it like for food. She just loves to spend time with you. And because I've been away for a lot of the time during a lot of hours during the day, in the evening when I come, she actually has a ritual. I've been told after dinner that she cuddles. And if I don't cuddle with her after dinner, then she yells at me. So last night she was yelling again at me. It's really funny. I mean, this morning again, they were trying to do naughty things, but and I'm like talking to them. I've been talking a lot to the cats. The other day I met with this one young mom here. She's actually from Romania. She's married here. She has a child, and we met on this reading event for Malcolm X, and we had a coffee. And I was like, she's like, "I don't want to bother you." I'm like, "Please bother me," because the only conversations I had are actually monologues with cats for almost 2 weeks. So please do bother me. But yeah, I want to conclude with the books that I managed to read. I already talked about one of them that I read, and I briefly addressed Perfect Victims and the Politics of Appeal by Muhammad Al-Kurd. I highly recommend this book to anyone who is interested in understanding about the process, understanding the process of dehumanization that Palestinians have been put through in the last 100 years. And Muhammad Al-Kurd is very good in elaborating how this works for those who support the Zionist settler project, but also for us who are standing in solidarity with Palestinians, how often, and Palestinians themselves, how often we tend to fall into this trap to kind of try to justify and elaborate humanity, Palestinian humanity, like to prove that they are human enough, that they deserve life, that they deserve to live. So I really do recommend this. I don't think this is, of course, this is written for allies specifically, but it also addresses topics of these like "I got you" comments that you get from Zionists. He talks a lot about that. He talks about the material reality of Zionism that Palestinians live every day. And even whether they are in diaspora or whether they are still in historical Palestine. I really couldn't recommend it enough. I actually pre-ordered it, but didn't. Maybe I already said this, but I was really hesitant to pick it up because I just thought it was going to be very difficult to read it. And it is at times, because he talks a lot about the martyrs. He talks about them, who they were and how they were killed. So it goes, some parts are rather graphic as well. And I think he did that on purpose, because if you wouldn't have it as graphic like that, it wouldn't, I think, resonate with the reader, because the point is not for him to censor the brutality of settler colonialism in Palestine. The point is to show you what is the lived reality of Palestinians there. And I think the brutality with which they are killed and this kind of like laissez-faire approach to extermination that the Israeli settler colonial state has towards Palestinians is just mind-blowing. That they don't really see Palestinians as human, and that's why they are able to do these horrific things to them. And I think with this book, he really does grant Palestinians humanity in the sense that he knocks down all the stereotypes that we have been exposed to through different mediums. And he just simply says, we don't really need to prove that we are human. But in the public discourse, in the historical perspectives of how Palestinians have been treated, this is the thing that they have been asked to do over and over again whenever they speak about the colonial oppression that they face daily. So I highly recommend it. Please do read Muhammad El-Kurd's book. And the second one is also nonfiction. It's a collection of essays. I think I briefly mentioned it in some other videos. It's Portrait of an Island on Fire by Ariel Saramandi. I picked up this book, actually pre-ordered it when I saw that it was going to be released by Fitzcarraldo last year, simply because I read one novel by a different Mauritian author that explored the history of colonialism and racism in Mauritius. And I wanted to read a nonfiction about Mauritius, and I knew that it was a collection of essays. It's not an easy read again. As you can see, like I marked a lot of pages. She is brilliant in articulating the history, her personal experience in Mauritius with racism and misogyny. And she shares some very intimate, very personal experiences here that have affected her life. She has been also ostracized by her family and just shunned by society in general because she speaks of the things that are not permissible in the society in Mauritius. So, and she actually talks about getting death threats, that she started isolating and being afraid to go outside once she started being public about her criticism of the political affairs that are going on in Mauritius, the history, the racism, and so on. For me, one of the most interesting parts in this collection of essays was when she talks about the private property ownership by families who are great-grandchildren of former slaves in Mauritius, and how they were dispossessed of their property without even knowing that they were dispossessed. So she was going to these public institutions trying to get some information there, and they were rather reluctant to give her information about the ownership of certain plots. She also she does this interviews with this one woman in particular who had a court case regarding the land that her grandfather was dispossessed of, not knowing that he was being dispossessed of because he was illiterate, and of course those in power used that against him in order to take the land away from him. And one of the most shocking things that I found out is when she writes about speaking to a friend who works in this public administrative building where you have all these records of property ownership that should be publicly accessible to everyone. But they were quite reluctant to let her go inside and look for the documents that she was interested in. And then her friend told her, was it a friend or a person who worked there? Somebody told her that the reason for this was simply because white Mauritians would go in there and try to destroy the records because they're trying to hide the history of their families and the actual participation in the dispossession of the land from families whose great grandfathers were slaves. So I was, I was shocked. We know racism exists everywhere. It's not something that is new. Where there is not a single corner in the world where there isn't racism. And for this was just like a simple fact. It's just one of the things that happens. She talks a lot about the experience she had when she went to school and heard kids use the slurs for Black people, and how everyone was in the administration of the school was claiming that this was actually not happening, because if it were happening they would have noticed. And then she was pointing that the kids were actually running in the hallways and the teachers were everywhere. But she's saying also that this is so common and that this is so happening on daily basis that for them they don't even notice it, and that's why they probably claim that it's not happening. And another interesting thing, and I'm just gonna mention this one more thing, that I found it really funny, but it's also scary on some level, that the white Mauritians don't like to be called white Mauritians. It's forbidden. Like there is like a social norm. Sorry, the book is heavy. There is a social norm that you cannot call them white Mauritians. You call them Franco-Mauritians. And I was like, that is so strange, but at the same time, it makes sense because they all live in this discourse of denial of racism that they perpetrate every day. So it makes sense that they don't want to be called white Mauritians, because then, of course, it changes this whole dynamic and it puts them in a position of a culprit, of a benefactor of an extremely racist system. I would, it's a very difficult book to read. I was not able to read it, although it's very interesting. I was not able to read it in one go. I had to really take a lot of breaks in between the readings. I would read maybe a chapter or two, and then I would have to put it down, and I wouldn't pick it up for days. And then I would read again a chapter or two. It's a fast read, but the topics that she tackles are so heavy, and there's a lot of violence in there. She also covers the topic of migrant workers and how they are treated and the dehumanization that they experience on daily basis. And her family, she talks a lot about her family, the personal history, and she has written one essay that is very personal about her own brother. And she says that she probably to this day still hasn't been forgiven for writing about her brother's internalized racism. And yeah, that's it. I guess I will conclude the vlog here. I don't really know how it's going to look. what I'm going to attach where. I am going to say now that I was last weekend in Leopold Museum. I visited the permanent exhibition that they have, but they also have a new exhibition of this French artist from Paris, from the Paris Commune, no, not Flaubert, Gustave Courbet, I think it's his name. And it was fascinating. It was brilliant. Some of the paintings were just so beautiful, and it was quite shocking. One of the paintings was first publicly shown, I think, about 120 years later, simply because of the of the of the topic on the canvas. I don't think I will be able to show his nudes, but I will attach a website link, and then you can go and see some of the paintings that are shown also on the website. But if you are in Vienna or you plan to come, the exhibition is until, I think, 21st of June. And what I will mention this, and then I will wrap it up. It's fascinating, the exhibition itself, because they have managed to collect paintings from all over Europe. Some of them are also in private collections, but all of the paintings are from museums in France, Netherlands, Germany. There was one painting also that has been acquired from a national museum in Warsaw. There is a painting from that belongs to UNICEF. I mean, there are so many paintings, and his life was super interesting and super turbulent, and he was really in the circles of these progressive artists and political thinkers of the time. So I highly recommend you check him out, his work out, and I guess I will attach short videos I took in the museum, and I took it for the purposes of this vlog. So thank you for being here. See you again in the next one. I will be recording another video now in the same outfit. So there you go. You'll see that video a bit. I think that video is gonna go first, and then this vlog is gonna go, I don't know, I'm gonna upload it at some point when I manage to find the time to edit it. Thank you for being here. Have a good day. Bye.